Hi there, Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai. Today we're going to work on our Portulacaria afra forest. This forest is styled to look like the giant Baobab trees growing in Africa. In the last video, we were trying to thicken up the more vertical trunk on this tree and subduing the growth on the thicker slanting trunk. So the tree's grown from spring untouched till now. I've never tried defoliating the Portulacaria afra trees on purpose. I did one winter have the trees dry out to the point where all the foliage fell off, and yeah, it kind of defoliated itself. So today we are going to try and defoliate it. I'm going to start with pruning it up first though. So we've kind of let this trunk thicken up as much as it can in the season. I'm going to restore it back to its proper form. Just because we're getting kind of coarse on our branching here, I want to bring the size back without creating massive scars and starting the branch structure all over again. So we're kind of letting it grow more than this side, but also kind of keeping it under control. I've said before, you should always look at your trees and reevaluate them. These trees can always get thicker. It certainly won't hurt getting thicker trunks on my Baobab style trees. I'm going to start by pruning the long branches back on the main tree. And we can do directional pruning. So if I wanted my new branch, my two new branches to come out horizontal from the cut point, I prune to here. My two leaves facing left and right. Or if I want to prune back further, I can prune to the vertical leaves, which point up and down, and I'll get a branch come out the top and one out the bottom. So I have to decide what kind of movement I want. Because this branch is facing towards the viewer, I think I want my new branches to come left and right, not up and down. So I'm going to prune it back even further to a set of leaves that does go horizontal. So we'll get new branches to the left and one to the right. So we want to prune everything down more compact. So we're going to prune basically to the first set of leaves or the second set of leaves, depending on the direction. And our styling goal is to kind of make it look like a head of broccoli. So thick trunk and rounded tight forms of foliage on top and branches. So here we go. I do some directional pruning to all my branches. All these cuttings root really easily. Just place the cutting in some dry soil and keep it a little bit humid. You don't want everything bone dry, but a little bit of humidity, and the cutting will root quite quickly, and you'll get a really nice little tree out of the cuttings. I don't think I've ever failed to have a cutting root with this species of tree, with the Portulacaria afras. So I'm just deciding with each branch I'm pruning which direction I want the new growth to go in. So we'll come back when the main tree's all pruned down and have a look at it. I've pruned the main tree back, all the new growth back to either the first or second set of leaves. I haven't done the structural pruning yet. I'm going to prune all the other trees in a similar manner, just pruning back to either the first or second leaves on the new growth. Then we're going to look at the overall structure of all the trees and decide what kind of hard pruning we need to do. So, removing branches, getting the form back in shape, sort of styling the tree. So right now we're just removing all the new growth back to the first or second set of leaves. This forest has been outside on the bench all summer. It gets well full sun all day. It doesn't get the early morning sun, but it gets sun most of the day. I've been leaving it tilted on the bench, so I put a block of wood under the one side, which tilts it up like this, and the water drains really nicely in these shallow pots if you tilt them. And I've been doing that, and it's working really well. I can water the forest almost every day, and it dries out. If I didn't have it tilted on the bench, the water would sit in the pot and it may rot the roots, especially if we get a lot of rain. Just recently we had rain every day for the last 4 days, and if the pot wasn't tilted, you could get problems with root rot. A lot of people have asked me, how do you grow these trees fast? Well, the answer is give them lots of fertilizer and lots of water, but you have to make sure the soil dries out between watering. So, as I said, tilting the pot helps, full sun, and then lots of water and fertilizer. If you do use a lot of fertilizer, you will get large leaves on the tree, larger than if you withheld the fertilizer more. But that's okay if you're in a growth period for the tree. If you want to fatten your trunks up, grow thicker branches, just fertilize it lots, water it lots, but again, let it dry out between waterings. You can see the growth in this tree. I wouldn't expect much more growth than this in a summer. They're not a super rapid, fast-growing tree, but they do grow well. I've got the first pass of the pruning done. We've kind of just clipped back the new growth, and now it's time to go in and look at each tree and fix structural problems with them. This tree, for instance, it has part of it sticking up too high. It's out of the kind of rounded canopy. We've got some growth down lower that we can remove. And it's getting kind of congested in this area here. We've kind of got a mat of foliage. You can't see any branch structure. So let's start on this tree. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to defoliate it. Defoliation is done for a couple of reasons. One is to get in and see the structure of the tree without all the foliage hiding the branch structure. The second reason is when the new leaves grow in, because the tree has to use a lot of energy to generate new leaves, the new leaves will come in smaller, and it'll be more in scale with the size of these small trees. So we're just going to remove the leaves. You can see some of the older leaves, these are left over from when it was growing indoors, are quite large. Some of the new leaves growing in now are quite small. So I'm just cutting the leaf off, leaving a tiny bit of the base of the leaf on. We don't want to injure the buds that are at the base of each leaf, because they'll have to generate our new branches and our new leaves. By leaving a little bit of the leaf on the branch, you can see where the buds are on the branch. So when we do some hard pruning to prune the structure of the tree, we can see where the leaves were to do a little bit of directional pruning as we proceed. I am starting to like the taste of these leaves more. Especially the newer leaves are quite good tasting. If you get the older leaves like this one, they're quite bitter tasting. The newer ones are definitely sweeter and tangier. So I'll come back when I've got the little tree defoliated, and then we'll start our structural pruning. These stumps on the main tree, I've got one here and one back here. They're dormant. They're not dead, and they're not growing. And I'm leaving them on in case they do sprout new growth. And they still have a chance of doing that. Over on the right-hand side of the forest here, there was a old stump here that wasn't growing at all. And then it had a shoot down lower on it that I thought, oh, well, at least I've got something growing there. And then one day it just sprouted new growth coming from that old stump that had been dormant for almost 2 years. So, yeah, I still have some hope for the stumps on the main tree. It is possible, given the right conditions and the right light, that they'll sprout growth on them. So we'll just leave them on for now and see how they do in the future. My kids got creative and they made me a Google Play button. I guess this is like the gold version. It says, "Dear Mr. Saunders, congratulations on the success of your YouTube channel. We are aware that you have recently reached 12,000 subscribers and would love to reward your achievement through giving you a gold Google Play button. Thank you for your creativity on YouTube. Sincerely, the Google team." Yeah. So there I am. I got my very own Google Play button made of gold. And I know it's real gold because it's soft. It's not plasticine. And it's in this beautiful crystal display case. So thanks, kids. That's wonderful. I finished defoliating this tree. I didn't defoliate this branch because I'm going to remove that lower branch. I don't want branches growing up on the trunk. And I want to prune any branches that are growing out of the canopy. So you can see this part sticking up. I do have a side branch I could prune it to there, so I will do that. Like that. And I want all my branches to fan out from the main trunk. So I've got one back here I could prune off that's kind of crossing. I have another branch here that's interfering with this branch beside it. There's one growing inside here. We'll get rid of that one. Let's have a look at it now. Yeah, that's a lot better. We do have two branches crossing here. I think I'm going to get rid of the crossing one on the inside here. It's kind of cluttering the design up. Let's have a look at it again. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to clean up where I removed that branch. I'm going to clean that up a bit. It kind of has the trunk goes up in steps because this was grown after this trunk. I'm going to carve a bit of a transition into there. So here we go. There, that'll help it. That'll help it a lot in healing a little smoother. I'm going to defoliate all the rest of the trees, and then we'll be back and do a structural pruning on them all. When you're defoliating a tree, be sure to keep the soil on the drier side. Because the tree doesn't have leaves, it's not taking up water from the soil and putting it into the air. So if you water your tree normally and it has no leaves, you can start to cause root rot on the roots. So it's best to let the soil dry out and stay on the dry side until all the new foliage is grown in. Portulacaria afra is also known as elephant's bush or speck boom. They lend themselves well to defoliation. At certain times of the year, these leaves comprise about 70% of an elephant's diet. So elephants will come in and they'll just strip the bush of all its foliage, and it'll regrow the new foliage later on. So in the wild, These trees are used to having this process done to them, where they're stripped of all their leaves. And I bet you the elephants do it a lot quicker than I'm doing it here. My goal for this forest is to someday display it without any leaves on it, just in the naked state. Most pictures of Baobab trees, which is the style I'm trying to copy here, don't have any leaves on them in the pictures. So when you do see a picture of a Baobab tree with leaves on, it looks kind of unusual. Like I said, it looks kind of like a head of broccoli. Some people ask, why don't I just use real Baobab trees instead of Portulacaria afra? The reason is they would be very difficult to grow in Canada. With the humidity here and the long winters, I don't think I could grow one. I have trouble growing desert roses. My greenhouse here in the winter, or not my greenhouse, but my plant room, gets quite humid in the winter, and my desert roses get root rot in them. So anyway, I can grow Portulacaria afra fine, so I'm growing it in the style of a Baobab tree. I finished removing all the leaves from the trees. Yeah, there was a lot of old leaves that were blocking light to the inner structure of the trees, so I'm glad to get it all cleaned out. And now I'm going to clean up the landscape, get rid of all those leaves on the surface of the pot, and then we'll start structurally pruning our trees. I've got my landscape all cleaned up, all the leaves off it. There's a few shoots down low here that I'm going to prune off, like that. If I was going for taper in the trunks, I might leave those on and develop them to thicken the trunks up at the bottom. But Baobab trees tend to have a constant thickness to the trunks. They just get fatter. So you don't see a lot of taper in the trunks of a Baobab tree. We're going to prune this tree up front now. I got a branch that's going downhill here. I prune that off. Again, a downward one there, bud. The overall structure is pretty good. There's a high branch at the back here. I can prune that down. And another one here. We can prune this one back a bit. Then I'm going to go up top and look down at the tree. So looking at the top of the tree, you can see, problem areas where branches are going to overlap other ones. So right here we've got some branches overlapping. So I'm going to cut this one back, or cut it off. Solves that. I'm going to trim this shorter, this shorter. You need some branches growing vertically to make the crown of your tree. The branches in the middle go more vertical, and they start to fan out as you get to the outside branches. So I'm going to leave some of these vertical branches in the middle. I think I'm going to take this one off. Trim this one back a bit. That's good for a vertical branch. Trim this one a bit shorter. This one here that's kind of overlapping that we need to take back. Another branch here that's overlapping. Cut that back. One here. I'm actually going to cut it back to here. Try and get something growing out that direction. This one I'm going to prune off here. Like so. That's looking better from above. It looks pretty orderly. I'm going to continue to clean up the structure of the trees, and we'll come back and have a look at it. I finished cleaning up the structure of the forest. Let's go up top now and we'll have a look at the way the branches kind of fan out and that. Yeah, here's a shot from above. Not sure how much you'll be able to see, but yeah, so all the trees are kind of sorted out. All the branches have their own spot of sunlight, And the trees aren't interfering with each other. They each have their own space in the planting. So again, on this planting, we've taken small steps to slowly improve the overall look and structure of the trees to make them look like miniature baobab trees. That's all the work we'll be doing on our Portulacaria afra forest, styled to look like baobab trees. The next time we look at this planting will probably be at our club show, where I'm hoping we'll get a new set of small leaves that'll grow in, and the size of the leaves will be nice and uniform, and the color. So I'm hoping it looks really good for our club show. So Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai, thanks for watching. Do something green today. Instead of using leaf blowers and power equipment, get out an old-fashioned rake and a broom and clean up your yard that way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.